Om. Namaste to all. Today we have a very interesting question posed in front of us on the relevance of Ashrama Dharma. And it is very important for us to get a foundational understanding on this topic because a lot of this information is mostly not practically followed. And most of our information and understanding comes only from Shastras. And that is going to also pose a question as to the relevance and applicability of these concepts in this day and age. So before we proceed, let's understand what is ashrama, and then we can try to understand what the different stages of the ashrama were, and from there we will try to derive on the currency and efficacy of these ideas. So all of us know there are 4 ashramas, roughly to be translated as the stage of life. We have brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa. Now the interesting idea about these concepts, some of them are not even practiced. For example, very few people adhere to a vanaprastha stage of life. We can go and look at our aged parents or grandparents and we ask them the question, they will look weird at us and say like, what are you even talking? Same thing with the idea of sannyasa, where sannyasa was to be in a forest where somebody is not even going to be living even for overnight. We have changed that into ashrams where you got pretty much all sorts of sales going on, products marketing, and it's totally morphed into a different idea. In brahmacharya, we think is only the unmarried state of a person. So if a person is not having conjugal pleasure even with their spouse, let's say that they have gone on 2-month vacation somewhere, then immediately they call themselves brahmachari. We have stooped to such a level of crass misinterpretation that we need to have a complete and thorough understanding of these concepts before we proceed. Now, for understanding this, it is imperative for us to understand that the ancient Vedic society and the Veda derived society was adhering to the concept of gunas. And we all know the gunas are of 3 types: sattva, rajas and tamas. And everything in this prakriti is made up of 3 gunas. So if you go to Saturn, it is made up of 3 gunas. You go to Sun, it is 3 gunas. If it is a black hole, it is 3 gunas. If you take your body or mind, they are also 3 gunas. So anything and everything that is composed in this prakriti is of the nature of the 3 gunas. Now that doesn't mean the sattva guna of the sun is the sattva guna in me. I am not shining like a sun. So the applicability of these concepts and their understanding is also somewhat difficult and subtle. So here we have the three gunas, and what is the pramana? What is the proof that we are embarking on this kind of discussion? Do we have any proof? Bhagavan Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Guna Karma Vibhagacha. That means he has separated this world of Prakriti based on the gunas and karma. Now we introduced a new word, karma. So we have the gunas, that is the intrinsic nature of anything and everything, and its expression is called karma. So if someone says, I am a very good person, all I do is I am a very good sattvic person, I go and kill people. Doesn't add up. Maybe that is true, but that doesn't add up in the normal parlance. Oh, I am a very active, proactive person, but I like to just be lazy and just lie around. That doesn't fit. So guna and karma are concepts that go together. One is the intrinsic nature, the other one is its expression. Now these gunas are not cast in stone. They are always in a dynamic flux, and despite their dynamic flux, they are always going to be changing even within the person. Our karma, what we did or about to do, is also going to give a feedback loop and modify our gunas. So gunas cannot be looked at like categorical ideas, and since they are always dynamic, there is going to be a flux in our karma also. Let's say a person is daily interested in eating sweets daily. Now if the person, doesn't matter rain or shine, they eat sweets. Now let's say that one day this imaginary person gets a phone call, and the phone call says that his entire family, his spouse, his children, his parents, they all went to Niagara or something, and they met with an accident and all died. Now you are that person's best friend. Now you say, hey, these are the sweets I specially ordered for you. You give it to that person. Will that person be in a mood to eat sweets? Well, if they start eating it, you better run. That kind of monster is very difficult. So human being is always going to be subject to these kind of guna fluctuations. The same person will have different gunas. Like when you wake up early in the morning, and if you are fresh, you are well rested, you look at some nice text, spiritual text, you would be able to understand nicely. On the other hand, you have not slept in 3 days, and I come and give you the best information, you are going to be sleepy. So the gunas for the same person is going to change, and this change is going to determine how it gets expressed as karma. And together, these guna karma composition is going to be the foundation for our societal structure. Now, if you are looking at a person in a snapshot of time, and that person is in that path, you can understand that is going to determine that person's varna. But if that person is going to have a series of progression, based on the stage of life that we call as ashrama. Now we are not going to focus much on varna, but for understanding purposes, let's define them. When the focus is primarily on the human vision that is going to determine this guna and karma expression. In 18th chapter, we understand that Krishna is taking a lot of time to explain about what these visions are. The sattvic vision, the rajasic and tamasic. So, the vision is going to determine how we look at things. And intrinsically, all human beings can operate at 4 different levels in their mind. The lowest level or the crassest level, we all are aware and we operate, is at the level of kama. That means I, me, myself. Now what happens at a kama level? I find a incompleteness in myself and I have an urge to have this object, which may be a person, it may be a thing to enjoy or a thing to dispose of, doesn't matter. It's an object of the mind. That object of the mind, whether it is a conceptual or a physical one, doesn't matter, is what we call as kama. Now this kama, we all understand, can morph into other things. So if you get that object, it produces what we understand as pleasure. If you don't get it, it produces pain. If there is an obstruction, that obstruction causes anger. Now, if that attachment is stronger, that becomes as rage. Now, you also take this kama or desire and you are subjecting it to a few other ideas like raga and dvesha, what we call as like and dislike. And we also take the idea of vasanas, basically it leaves an imprint. If we layer all these ideas, we find that all our emotions stem and spring from this kama. So, if somebody else is getting and I am not getting, I feel it as jealousy. If I want more and more of the same, irrespective of my past situation, it's called greed. So, the entire human emotion can be traced to the desire-driven modification and the level of attachment. We also have to add the attachment to understand this. So, kama is a very, very small, narrow idea. Like a few times in the past, I did explain giving an example. Let's say that if a few years ago, when some miners were stuck in Chile cave, and there was a machine that was drilled to see a small hole and see if they were there. And these people put some information back, like tying a cloth or something like that, which basically gave the idea that there were people. Now, if that was a small peephole through which we are seeing the world, and in between we have all these desire-driven modifications, it is going to give us a very biased and confused picture of the world. And that is what kama does to all of us. Now, we take this idea of kama and we expand it. Like the example I give very often, if you want to drink water, you are operating from a level of kama. And if somebody is having water and they are not giving, you feel angry, you feel you can do anything to take that water depending on your level of thirst, and you feel justified. So kama operates on a very, very, very narrow bandwidth. Now if you are looking at artha, there is an expansion of the mind. Imagine you are a shopkeeper. If you have to sell some water, that water you are getting from a vendor and you are stocking. All you are worried about is how many crates I need to move. But if you are the company owner, your vision of that artha has to be much bigger. You need to understand what licenses you need to take, where you get so many plastic bottles, where do you get the water, where do you get the distribution, how to do advertisement, marketing, how to ship all these products. So your mind is going to operate at a different level of thinking. So though we go to job and make money, our level of understanding is only kama driven, and it is very limited artha we understand. The CEO of all of our companies would probably have a much better idea about how to run that huge institution with all the problems and things like that. So basically, what we understand as artha is very limited. Now, if we expand this idea of this water bottle to the world, now you are looking from the vision of dharma. You are understanding from a system of systems. So you look at it, hey, I am drilling for water, groundwater here. These aquifers are depleted, causing lot of pollution, and groundwater is not available for other people. So this is not a good thing. So we understand from a dharma perspective also, we see these plastic bottles are causing lot of problems. So we are able to see from that vantage point a bigger picture. Now you could expand that not only from the earth perspective, you could expand it to the solar system, to the entire cosmos. So dharma is not limited to only our understanding. As you keep on expanding it, things start going deeper and deeper. And then when you cross a certain threshold, the human mind can go and perceive at the highest level of its potential, where it is not bound by any of these limitations, and it transcends it, and that's what we call as moksha. So in a nutshell, we saw what dharma, artha, kama and moksha are the vision of every human being and how it operates. Now we need to marry these ideas back to what we are talking today as ashrama. Now we also say these ashramas were mostly an idea of the past, but we are also talking about its relevance today. So here is an interesting thing. These ideas are going to be relevant in any time. Let's say another 10,000 years later, mankind has grown to Star Trek level. We go and start colonizing other parts of the galaxy. Now here is the interesting part. Even then, ashrama dharma will be valid. Why? Because we are talking about dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and we are not talking about just some child being born, then we are going to be in the teenage, then we go into adulthood, then we get married, then we get another spouse, and then we get our children. This is not the biological life cycle. We are not talking about that. We are talking about the progression of a single individual, and we are going to map it in the backdrop of the Purusharthas. So it is imperative for us to again understand the importance of understanding two concepts. One is guna and karma on one side, the other one is the Purusharthas. Now we have gotten the foundation. So let's start with the very first stage. Now, when you build a house, what is the first thing you build? Most typically, you will build the foundation. And usually, the foundation has to be the strongest, and it has to support the structure that you are going to put tomorrow. So, if you put a foundation for a 10-story building, but you want to build a 20 stories, will that foundation last? Or eventually it will crumble? So, the most important step for our life, the very first thing is Dharma. Note that we saw the vision is coming, lowest level is Kama, all the way to Moksha. So the rishis could have given it as Kama, Artha, Dharma and Moksha. That would have been valid, right? But they didn't do so. And then they could have given it like this: Moksha, Dharma, Artha, Kama. They didn't do that also. Why? Why did they give as Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha? Oh, it rhymes well, it is good Sanskrit grammar. No. They may be true, but that's not the idea. Because it matches the progression of the individual in their life. If Dharma is not the foundation, the entire edifice comes down, crumbling. So, the entire emphasis of the society, of human life, of our salvation, of our superior quality of life is resting on the idea of Dharma. So, Dharma is the most crucial idea, but as we already seen, Dharma is an idea that is already neglected in the society. And needless to say, we also cut off the idea of moksha, because our understanding of moksha is not the normal day conversation. Our understanding of moksha is now colored, or rather discolored, by the Abrahamic idea of heaven and hell. Now we come down to their level and we are talking heaven and hell. Swarga and Naraga are not the key aspects of Sanatana Dharma. They are just a fallout of our actions. So that is not the important state. They are not even glorified. So the importance again is our life has reduced to only karma and karma related ideas. So we already proved that artha, our understanding of artha is highly localized and limited to what can be used for fulfilling karma. Such is our narrow vision that we don't even understand that we are talking only about karma, karma, karma. That is why you find people, doesn't matter what stage in life and stature in life. You look at all the Epstein clients starting from Bill Gates. Look at how despicable acts they have done. You look at people like Bill Cosby. Look at even at the ex-president, Bill Clinton. I don't know if all the things are named after Bill so that they will fit the bill. I don't know. But don't let anyone refer anything remotely called Bill to you, because looks like that name has a lot of baggage. But anyways, on a lighter note apart, what we are looking at is that Dharma is the foundation and without which we cannot progress in this society. Now, why is Dharma important? Dharma is important because there are two starting points. There are two paths in our life. Remember the road less taken kind of poem? You take one road, you go to the lower levels, and you go to the other one, you go to the next level kind of thing. And here we are not talking about those kind of roads. Although, if you want to more accurately refer to Kathopanishad, Yama refers to these paths as Preyas and Shreyas. Preyas is the path of pleasure, whereas Shreyas is the path of Dharma, superior. So what happens is, in the path of Preyas, your focus and my focus is limited to the vision of Kama and maybe Artha. So Kama and Artha, what they do? They lead us on a path of pleasure. At least that's the promise. But what do you get in return? Pain. So pleasure and pain are the only possibilities in the path of Preyas. But if you stick to the path of Dharma, and in that Dharma itself you find the idea of Artha and Kama inherent in itself. So you want to live that level only. I want to stick to the level of Dharma and enjoy the Artha and Kama that is attendant on it. Then you are going to get Punya. Whereas Kama and Artha is going to lead you to Papa. You can't say that I have good thoughts only, but I desire. If your attachment to desire is so much, it will push you into the path of Adharma because you don't have the Dharma grounding. So, the path of Preyas that limits us to pleasure and pain, that leads us to Papa, whereas the path of Shreyas, immediate result is Punya. But you want to transcend this Punya because you are not wanting to be bound even by the Punya. Now that leads to the next level, that is going to lead us to Moksha. You are not interested in the higher worlds, you are not interested in Indraloka and things like that. And by the way, Indraloka is another headache only. If you want to aspire, it comes with its attendant problems. And Indra has a mandate, he has to test the other person. So a lot of people starting from Nausha, Yayati, all these people were there very close to it and they ran into all sorts of problems. So my recommendation is, leave Indra alone. We can go straight to the higher realms and that is the better bet. And he is not even going to bother you because you are not going to endanger his post. So, the path of Preyas and Shreyas from Kathopanishad is an interesting segue for us to understand the idea of Purusharthas in that plane. Now, what is our focus now again? Dharma. Now, what is the first thing we want to do? With the very first thing, you want to put the foundation in the beginning, or when you are like 90 years old, when you are about to die, I start with Dharma. Right? In Adi Shankara, he said when some old man was trying to start with grammar, so in Bhajagovindam he says, Nahi nahi rakshati drukun karne. So he basically says that you are not going to be bound by these kind of laws at this age, starting with grammar rules and things like that, when your age should be, at your age, you should be focused on thinking about Bhagavan. So, the foundation has to be laid when the child is young. So, Brahmacharya is the foundation that Sanatana Dharma wants to focus. Let's split the word Brahma Acharya. Brahmacharya. So, basically, the person is disciplining oneself to align oneself in the path of Brahman, in the path that will lead them to Brahman. So, in the beginning stages, it is merely the direction and the alignment. As more and more sadhana comes, it eventually goes to the higher levels. Now, what is the primary focus here? Primary focus is the child, usually up to 6-7 years, will be with the parents. It's a very small child, right? But once they can take some instructions, they are sent to an acharya. The guru usually has an ashram where the guru patni will be taking care of their food and things like that. So the person needs extraordinary discipline. There won't be an alarm clock. There won't be something like a reminder. The child has to, the brahmachari has to show the initiative and go and study the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the whatever is relevant for that student's journey. And usually there are some foundational stuff that is given, and then some specialized knowledge is given. Not everybody is going to go and become a Vedantin. So they give the basic foundation, and then they will eventually transfer the child to that area of specialization. Easy for people who track Mahabharata. You see, like everybody was given basic idea about defense. But once they started specializing, Arjuna said he wants to focus on bow and arrow. Whereas Bhima and Duryodhana wanted to settle for Gada. The Yudhishthira wanted to specialize in spear fighting. And then Nakula Sahadeva wanted to focus on sword, horse riding, things like that, specializing in their own areas. So it was not a cookie cutter approach. So the acharya was not giving like same education like what everybody gets. That's not how it works. Now the other idea is there are some basic disciplines the brahmachari is expected. What is the primary focus here? Dharma. So a lot of attendant vairagya is also taught, like sleeping only after the guru has slept, waking up before the guru wakes up, taking care of guru's needs. Like maybe running the ashram was a big enterprise, so somebody has to go and pick firewood, somebody has to collect all the cow dung, somebody has to milk the cows, somebody has to... Apart from doing all this, you are focused on your studies. So the most important idea what we can take is, hey, these are all ideas that are not there, because most of the ashrams were destroyed by the British. They even survived the colonial, the Islamic onslaught, but the British were too sneaky that they were able to destroy the entire ecosystem that we had built over thousands of years. So a brahmachari also must have focus on vinaya, humility, controlling their indriyas, and there has to be a attitude of contentment. But there has to be an element of enthusiasm when it comes to applying oneself, studying, being committed to studies and things like that. So these are the qualities we are talking at a very, very high level. But what is the primary focus of this stage of life? To learn, master and focus only on Dharma. So let us not give up the idea that Dharma was the foundational focus on that made the Indian civilization a superior one, and that is what we are lacking today, that is making us get exposed at our weak spots. So we will come back to this idea in a bit. The second stage is what we call as Grahastha. See, Grahastha is the highest of all ashramas. Why? Because it is the Grahastha that basically supports the other three ashramas. So the Grahastha is very, very important. And the Grahastha also is the only one that is entitled to generate artha, wealth. And contrary to our understanding, the way we think about artha, we think I go and make a living so that that wealth that I generate can be used for my own pleasures, my own karma. Whereas what Shastras say, that the artha that we generate primarily has to be used for supporting dharma. So that is why you look at Abrahamic religions, they have a certain percentage that they recycle for their own religion. But in Sanatana Dharma of today, we give money to all temple, but that temple control is completely controlled by anti-Hindu forces. Worse yet, we are giving that to Tirupati Balaji not because of our love for Balaji, but because we are convinced that Balaji will give us something in return for the money we put. We have reduced ourselves to such a pathetic level that we have again tainted even the idea of dana to the level of our karma. And that's a sad state of affairs. The Grahastha also is very important because one of the important values of Sanatana Dharma is Atiti Satkara. If somebody used to come to the house, you have to make sure that you treat them as if Bhagavan has come there in that form. But today, even if you want to go to our own siblings' house, we have to take their permission because we don't know. Plus, if they are in a different city or whatever, we don't know. And also, we don't have the equation, like today's relationship is so awkward that we don't even think like a family. Again, where is the problem? Problem is lack of dharma. Now, the important thing to take away from Grahastha is, it is the foundational ashrama that supports all the other dharmas. Now, if you take the average person, we already saw that we don't have vanaprasthas and vanaprasthis and sannyasis. So we think we are all brahmacharis and following Grahastha. Sadly, that is also not true, because the average child, when the child goes to school, they just memorize stuff by rote. They don't even go and focus on how to have a scientific mind. That's why India barely produces Nobel laureates. Yeah, they are not giving awards, but what did we do to earn that? Yes, we may be good in applying. We may have scientists like Abdul Kalam who applied that knowledge that was already collected. That we have been doing. But we are not having that original scientific mind. We have lost it. Why? Because we lost that capability to have brahmacharya. Now, on the other hand, we can say, see, at least Grahasthashrama we are following. There also we are failing. We don't follow Grahasthashrama because all we are following is we are living in the house. That's all. We are only Grahasthas, but not in Grahasthashrama because there is no foundation of Dharma. We have lost it, unfortunately. Sorry, if we are going to understand the relevance of Ashrama Dharma, we must map ourselves honestly against the backdrop of what the rishis have suggested. We can't come with our own misinterpretations and say, yes, I fit the bill. Remember what happens with anything that fits the bill earlier. So, that is why we are calling someone like Rahul Gandhi, who 50 years but still unmarried, we call him Brahmachari. And everyone knows there is no acharana there. There is no achara there. So how will you call that as Brahmachari? And definitely nothing related to Brahman. Right? So the thing is that we should be very, very cautious in understanding the intent of the rishis. Now comes the interesting stage, next stage, where when somebody is like say 60 or 70, depending on what they are doing, 60, 65, whatever, the typical idea is to become a Vanaprasthi. Now we don't have Vana only. Vanaprasthi means one who has gone to the forest. But here is a society where we don't even have forest. We don't have any respect for forest. We have no idea. Half the people don't even know where their food even comes from or how it comes from. They don't even know what plant is producing what. So forget about Vanaprasthi. We don't even know basically what is the basics in nature. So a Vanaprasthi is a stage again we have lost completely. And what Vanaprasthis do is they live in their own vigor, in energy. They don't depend on the society. They are not a drain on the society. But if you take this idea, and I am not saying that you go and tell your parents, everybody go to forest. No. Everybody has to go to that stage on their own volition. You cannot push your parents and say, from tomorrow onwards you guys are Vanaprasthis. That is not the idea. Our dharma is to take care of our parents. Period. No question on that. But if the parents' generation are rooted deep enough in dharma, see, that is where we come back to the question again. Now this is not to analyze your parents or your grandparents and say, you guys are not doing this. This is to analyze only ourselves. So we must keep that very clearly in our mind. These analysis we do for guna, karma, varna or ashrama, they are only for ourselves. They are not for analyzing the society or even our family or anybody else, not even your spouse. Definitely not. So a Vanaprasthi stage is something which we don't even think. Today, how is the average person, a retired person living in a typical Hindu society? Morning to evening, there is some useless WhatsApp, Facebook. I am talking about the average person. I am not talking about a particular person in your life or mine. I am talking about the average person. The average person is more glued to the TV watching all serials, and all serials are designed to be crap. They offer the lowest amount of energy, and that is the only way they can hook you. And at a stage when the people, let's say these parents and grandparents should be understanding, like, look, these birds have flown the nest, let me give some space and step back. When I am asked, I will give the information. No. I know so many families, unfortunately, where the girl's mother or father, mostly mother only, or in some cases the other way around. I'm not some cases, in many cases the other way around, where the mother controls the son, and excessive needling in their affairs, and the next generation literally live in hell because they can't shut the door on their parents, they can't shut the door on their spouse, and they don't know, they transfer one negative energy to the other side, and it is a total short circuit. All this is happening because of what? The Vanaprasthi should be focused on what is the primary thing we are talking about: Dharma, Artha, Kama. Now, interestingly, you go and look at all these old people, many of them have gone berserk. Instead of regulating Kama, which is how we should understand, that is the stage when they are having all this chapala. You know what is chapala? That means they get all these petty desires that make them hooked to the world of sensory objects. And these chapala bind the old age person. Instead of focusing on Bhagavan, their focus is on all these worldly things. How can I needle my mother, daughter-in-law or son-in-law? I know a case where, you might know cases where daughter-in-law is the focus, or son-in-law. I know a case where there is a gentleman who has harsh feelings for his own son-in-law. Can you imagine this? They barely talk to each other. And the gentleman only made the marriage possible. It was an arranged marriage. Very traditional Orthodox family. So this kind of needless focus is because we don't know how to regulate Kama. Look at our dear friend Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra, after the Mahabharata war, for another 10 or 11 years, I don't recall, maybe Kicha can correct me how long it was, I'm not remembering quickly. So he was staying there in the palace, not going anywhere. And Yudhishthira would try to pacify him and make him stay. Every day Bhima would go to him and tell, these are the two hands that killed your 100 sons. Every day he will go and irritate him. But Dhritarashtra was so glued to his power that he was not ready to give up. And since Dhritarashtra was there, Gandhari was there, and Kunti was there to support Gandhari. But finally, after so many years of Bhima's, you can call it as abuse, the man got little bit, feeling that he should leave this place. And he went to the forest, but that's when he started understanding the importance of tapasya and things like that. And all three of them left, and they all three perished in a forest fire. That's what Mahabharata tells. So even that person, Dhritarashtra, who was clinging on to power like crazy, the epitome of Kama not being regulated, even he went to Vanaprastha. So what does that tell us? So today's society, a lot of old people don't even understand the importance of where to draw the line and where to back off. And that is causing a lot of problems for the next generation. Now, I am not in any way justifying the next generation and saying these guys are saints. Remember, these guys have the same problem as the previous generation because they also don't have the foundation of Dharma. So they also behave in ridiculous way. So we have today an explosion of old age homes. Now, if people are living abroad, I can understand that, but even for people living within the same country, same state, they just outsource the elderly care to an old age home. Now, here is the problem. What Shastras say that the old person has to live on their own vigor. But here is the problem. Our previous generation, of course, our generation, we are also following. We are only, anywhere from 10 to 20 years behind them in getting to that stage of life, right? So what happens is when we are also following their footsteps, the issue is what do we do with that particular stage? When we come to Vanaprasthi stage, now I am not saying that we are going to the Vana, but when we are talking about retirement stage, can we start focusing on how to live independently? You are looking at the reality of life, but unnecessarily we have the attachment, hey, my son, my daughter, my only child. So you put all your resources only on the child. Why? Because you are having an entitlement mentality. Today I take care, tomorrow they will take care. But you don't have that guarantee because the child, their guna is in their hands. And add on top of that, you have not given Dharma as the foundation for them because you yourself didn't have that. So the problem is you expecting them to adhere to Dharma and take care of you is a pipe dream. Can we all make sure that we can financially support ourselves in old age so that we are not a burden to the next generation at least? That's all the point is. The point is not don't take care of children or anything like that. The point is don't outsource your care in the elderly years to your children. Learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Don't be dependent is the limited point. Now, if a person is able to live in the village or town or city, but as if they are living in a forest, because they have learnt the art of regulating their senses and controlling their mind. They are literally a muni, says the Shastra. Now the last stage of life, what we call as sannyasa. Now again, this is not a age related, it is a stage related progression. So it is not an age related one. We have to understand that very clearly. So Adi Shankara became a sannyasi 80 years. And we may be 80 years and still not even think of Vanaprastha. We may be still thinking of, oh, you know what, I want more of this, I want to see. I have seen people who used to say like, hey, all I want to do is get my children married. Okay. And when children are settled, they come back with the idea, you know what, all I want is my children to get married and have children. Okay, now you are grandparents. What do you do next? All I want them is to see the grandkids settle comfortably. Okay. Now the grandkids are also settled. Oh, I wish to see the next generation. This is how we are again and again and again pulling ourselves and pushing ourselves and tripping over ourselves into samsara. So we want to get out of this samsara, and we just saw the idea that we don't have that foundation. So a sannyasi is not going to have a job. But today's sannyasi, fake gurus, sad gurus, what do they sell? They sell t-shirts, they sell soil from their backyard, they sell all sorts of trinkets. You are not supposed to do a business if you are a real sannyasi, but they wear orange clothes just to deceive us. Today even the Abrahamic community is wearing orange clothes so that they can act like sannyasi for you. They will give you baptism if you want. And the sannyasi's focus is complete overcoming the indriyas and 100% focus only on moksha, renunciation, tyaga, tapasya, sannyasa. That's the level at which we are operating. And there is, whatever they act, there is no karmic footprint left by the sannyasi. So, let's again go back to where we are and what we are doing right now. We are focused on the 4 stages of life, and we mapped that we have moved very much farther from these core principles. So, what can we do and what should we do? In our analysis so far, what we have found that everything is centered around dharma. In fact, one of the questions in Yaksha Prashna, Yama is asking Yudhishthira, or the Yaksha is asking Yudhishthira, hey, what is upholding all things in this universe? Dharma. See, dharma is that on which everything is standing, and that which is upheld is dharma. And many times I have reminded all of you that dharma is nothing but Bhagavan himself. So if you look at Bhagavan, do we all get upheld by Bhagavan? Are we all supported by Bhagavan? Yes. And if you are a Bhakta, do you uphold Bhagavan in your heart? Yes. That is the very definition of Dharma also. So, interestingly, we see Dharma around, and there are these atheists who come and say, can you show me God? Our question should be, can you even feel Dharma? Anywhere. Can you see somewhere Dharma being upheld? The laws of physics being upheld. Light goes at a certain speed. Sound goes at a certain speed. Electrons go at certain, they are found in a certain way. Electrons are not positrons, for instance. They don't develop, they become a different thing only under special conditions, right? What is the gravity of the earth? Is it each day it is changing like the weather? So there is dharma in the world, in the universe. And that dharma itself is a proof for us to say that that is Bhagavan. Now we understood the importance of dharma. We have to bring back that dharma to the child. Now the sad thing what we do today, we focus on the child. Hey, the child is born, you say you are either engineer or you are a doctor. In South India. In North India, one more choice is there. You can become IAS, IPS, whatever, administrative service. That's it. We don't even encourage the children to even become entrepreneurs, for instance. Why we don't want them to be entrepreneurs? Because we ourselves don't have any understanding of Artha. See, even the doctor and that engineer is only desire driven, because that is a stable career. That's all. And doesn't matter what engineering you study, you will eventually land up as a IT guy. So what happens, we have this fixed tracks and we have reduced our thinking to these kind of stinking thinking, and our vision is all centered around that karma. We are talking about the miners in Chile, remember? So if you are stuck in a cave that is like 500 feet below, and there is only a pinhole, and that also a lot of dust and other thing is clouding, how much can you see through that pinhole? That is what these karma driven lifestyle does to us. Because when you are thinking about one idea of enjoyment in karma, even before you enjoy, another two are waiting for you. So what we have to train ourselves is focus on giving the solid foundation of dharma to the child. But how can you give something to the child what you and I don't have? I come to your house, you are going to serve some food for me. Now you bring an empty vessel and you are trying to put some kheer into my plate. Sachidanandam, please have some kheer. But there is nothing in the dish. How will you dish out what you don't have? So what we don't have, we cannot give. So it is imperative that all the satsangis here take a good look at our own life and ask the question, am I rooted in dharma? Then slowly the next question becomes, am I rooted deeply in dharma? Then next question, am I as a key member of the family, doesn't matter whether it is a guy or a girl, as a key member of the family, am I creating the right ecosystem where dharma can thrive? If you have very young children, or if you are just married, don't have children, and you are just going to have children, start the children young. Put them on a track to have a solid foundation in dharma. Teach them slokas, teach them Itihasa Purana stories, teach them how to apply those stories in a practical way. That is what we do every week. Whenever we get together, we try to look at these Itihasa Puranas with the sole purpose of trying to apply them practically in our life. So, having said that, we are trying to elevate our standard personally. Can we take a limited amount of time on a daily basis, give it to some sort of sadhana? Now, the regularity in following discipline is important. Let's say that all of you are obsessed with getting a body like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like how he was 20-30 years ago. Now you all want to get it. So tomorrow morning you all hit the gym. From morning till evening you have decided to do exercise. But before this you have not even put your foot in the gym. Now you immediately start pumping weights, pushing weights. You think you will last 15 minutes, 20 minutes if you have never gone there? You won't. But you are determined to push through the whole day and you think that you are going to get that muscles. Yes, you will get something what is called as DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness. And after 2 days, you can't lift your hand, you can't do anything. So the idea is we have to do it in small steps. So if there is a newborn, just born, what does it need? It needs mother's milk. But instead you are saying, no, I want to make this child right away into a 5-year-old. So give all the food the child can eat up to the age of 5 and feed it right now. What will happen? Child will die. So what we do is, we are all children when it comes to the point of view of Shastras or Dharma. We are insignificant beings so far. So what we need to do is, we need to come with a steady game plan, follow one small step at a time, and each step will lead to the next. Be consistent and disciplined in following those. Like, it can be simple things. It can be like every day morning you want to wake up early. Now, if you make that decision, then you have to sleep early. You can't be staying night 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in clubhouse or in spaces. Why? Your body is as important, your mind is as important, because that is Dharma. Then you also understand that, hey, you know what, I want to start my day, but I will have a bath. Oh, okay, I will have a bath. Why do you need a bath? Because Shaucham is one of the important ideas. Now we start with the external Shaucham, but eventually we want to graduate to the internal Shaucham. Now for the body we have cleansed. Now how do you cleanse your mind? Take 5 minutes, tell Bhagavan Nama, that is cleansing of your mind, cleansing of your buddhi, cleansing of your Anma, all in one. When I say Anma, I am saying the impurities that are surrounding it. The Atma by itself is not going to get impure. Because whatever we have done, all our vasanas and all our papa, punya, karma, phala is all surrounding it, clouding it. So develop small things. Now we have 3 instruments, the body, mind and intellect. Take care of all of them. Now take a limited amount of time to inculcate satsanga, which means that you have to take a book or listen to some pravachan, or there are so many great people who have given all sorts of talks. There are even more number of books that are available in all languages of your choice. Take them. If you have a sampradaya, great, follow the sampradaya. You don't worry about trying to cross-pollinate. If you are not ready, don't worry about it. Don't get into unnecessary debates. If you are following Madhva Sampradaya, unless your mind is evolved, you don't want to poke your nose and ask what is this Advaita, you know. Focus on what your Sampradaya is. Get some roots in your Sampradaya before you go to the other idea. Now, I am not saying don't go. Now, there are so many stalwarts who go and understand all this from different points of view, and they respect all points of view. But if you don't have that mindset, don't venture into wasting time by saying, okay, this is what Ramanuja said. You know, Ramanuja was wrong. Shankara was also right. Maybe Shankara was wrong. No, Madhva only is right. Who cares? Focus on your sampradaya. Like when I say who cares about our opinion? Because Shankara, Madhva, all these Yogacharya, all have written and left books. They have got a clear vision. They were not confused. It is us who is trying to misinterpret, misunderstand what they have told and cause these petty quarrels, who is confused. So, try to have a structure. Then there was an interesting question Kicha posted in the morning. We have Varna, the 4 Varnas, and we have the 4 Ashramas. Now, do each Ashrama correspond to the same idea? Yes, we already saw that the connecting point for both is the Purushartha. We saw in the Varna idea, you see Varnas again mapped to the 4 Purusharthas. everybody, there are two philosophies that are being, two ideas that rishis have discussed in Skanda Purana, Mahabharata and all. One is they feel that all of us are born at the Shudra level. Now when I say Shudra level doesn't mean low level, don't misunderstand, it is not a societal state, it is just a state where Tamas is the primary driving force and Rajas is only limiting enough to do work. Is that not true how we live our lives? Only when the boss comes we do. We are not proactive, most of us are not proactive around the world. Few individuals may be, but most of us do only things when we are expected to do. If we can get away without doing it, we will do that. And that is a state of name, when they give that level some name, that's all. So we see the different guna composition. Remember we had a detailed discussion earlier on the guna and karma. So folks who came late can go back and rewind and listen to it later. So here also a person who is just focused on kama level of understanding, that person is defined as Shudra. Now where do we get a proof for this kind of outrageous claim? Look at Vishnu Sahasranama in Palastuti. In Bhishmacharya says, Shudras will get, by chanting Vishnu Sahasranama, they will get Sukham. And by definition, one who wants to avoid Dukkham is called Shudra. Etymologically, when you split the word and the real Sanskrit meaning, that's what it means. So it is not like a cooked up idea. When you say Vaishya, what is the idea? Now here, how do you get, so you are in a karma driven focus, so you and I are all reduced to the level of only Shudra. The other idea is like the rishis opine that we all start at Brahmana level and progressively we degrade and come down to Shudra level. Irrespective of it, it is not a derogatory term. It is just indicating a state. Now if you say the electron is in the first shell, or the electron is excited and it is in the third shell, does it mean that the first level is a low in character, the higher level is in good in character? No, it is just indicative. And as we saw that all of us are only living a kamya state of life, so all of us are in the same boat. So there is nothing to be derogatory or anything like that. There is no somebody riding a high horse and looking down upon and saying that you minions. And then we go to the next level where the focus of Vaishya is obviously in Artha. And then we looked at the focus of Kshatriya is always Dharma Samrakshana, protecting Dharma. And then we go to the Brahmana, his focus is only on moksha, supposed to be. But are today's Brahmanas doing that? I will show you Brahmanas that are eating beef and pork. I will show you Brahmanas who are proudly promoting it on Twitter and other places, that everybody should eat meat and pork. And they call themselves Brahmanas. Such is the, again, what is the reason for all this outrageous ideas? Because there is no dharma left. So our Varna organization is not a easy one to focus, because the society is already split. Right? The society is already split. If you go and tell in Tamil Nadu you are a Brahmana, immediately there is going to be some sort of problem. Many places, if you are saying you are Hindu only, they are cutting the neck. That is a different story. Right? So what is happening is, our focus and emphasis on Varna may be very difficult, although it may be relevant to only ourselves. But Ashrama Dharma is not like that. It is just an emphasis for the stage of our life. So, we can start. All of us can become brahmacharis. Now, am I saying that to stay away from your spouse or something like that? No, I am not talking about that. Let's look at Bhagavan Krishna when Gandhari, Draupadi, they all come and they are all Uttara, they all come and cry. They are telling that Ashwatthama's Apandavastra is going to have its impact. Though Krishna took his Chakrayuda and he tried to do all that, Dharma will follow its own course. So his weapon also had an impact on the child. So the child was born, the fetus was born dead. So Krishna said, if he is a Nitya Brahmachari and if he has never spoken a lie, if he has never deviated from Satya, let this child become alive. He just touched the child, the dead fetus, with his toe. The child came to life. Immediately our critics, half-baked critics, who are these? This is a special category of Hindus. We call them as seculars. These secular, educated, dharma separated, deracinated breed of Hindus, we can even call them mutants. They are sick. We call them secular. It's a term I am proud to have coined, and I am glad to spread it wherever it is, because they are always tamasic, not even rajasic. They are always tamasic in their thinking. So these seculars come and say like, hey, wait a minute. Krishna had 8 main wives, and Srimad Bhagavatam says each wife he had 10 sons, and then he had the 16,000 wives because he rescued the girls from Narakasura. So instead of having a societal chaos, imagine 16,000 Uttama Koti girls, virgin girls going back to the society. What kind of problem it would have posed in the society? Where will you find a good guy for all these people? So Krishna wanted to solve the societal problem, so he took it upon himself. Now with all these wives and all these children, he is calling himself as Brahmachari. So he is a liar, proved right there. Ha ha ha. No, that's not what it means. We already understood, even in Grahastha Ashrama, Shastras say you can be having children but at the same time be called as a Brahmachari. If you go into Mahabharata deep, you will see how that is being defined. Now we are not going to go into that now. Eventually when Bhishmacharya has his discourse with Yudhishthira, he gives all those definitions for each stage of life. But here what we are focusing on is one who is aligned to Brahman, one who is focused on that direction. They may not even make a lot of strides, but all they are doing is just change the direction and focus towards Brahman. Such a person is called Brahmachari. This Brahmachari primary focus is they are rooted in Dharma, they are aligned with Dharma. We already saw Dharma is synonymous to Bhagavan. So as long as you are aligned to Bhagavan, we are talking about, and we are also talking about one who is able to control the senses, one who is able to focus on higher values, superior values. Such a person is a Brahmachari. Not our Rahul Gandhi. Right? So we have to understand, and again, the interesting thing here is there is no Varna concept for ashrama. You can be a Shudra, you can be a Nastika, you can be a Brahmana, but you are still going to go through these stages in life. You are going to have Brahmacharya, you are going to have Grihasthashrama, you are going to have Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Now, if you don't do that, that's your deal. But anybody and everybody is following this. Now, it is also gender free. Now, we may not have, we don't call women who are in that stage as Brahmacharini. Let's not become so woke that we don't even understand what the intention is. The intention is every human being is going to go through these 4 stages, and every human being can go through the Purushartha focus. Our primary focus is on Dharma, and it continues throughout our life. It is not like today I do Dharma, tomorrow onwards I don't. Oh, I am a Grihasthashrama guy, so I follow only Artha. I will stop following Dharma. No. It is an inclusion of the previous step. So if you do masters in any subject, it means that you have passed bachelor's. It means you have passed high school. It means you have passed middle school. It means you have passed primary school. So if you are going to PhD and say that, hey, I have not even gone to school, how is that possible? So if you are going to Grihasthashrama, it means that you have mastered the understanding and practiced Dharma as a Brahmachari. So Brahmachari becomes a subset of Grihasthashrama in that sense. At least from the Purushartha perspective, because you are focused on Dharma, but in Grihasthashrama you are focused on Dharma but also Artha. Now, does it mean that in Brahmacharya you should not focus on regulating Kama like in Vanaprastha or Sannyasa? Such strict factors are not usually prescribed. So, Shastras say that, for example, there is a unit of measure of food, and many people who know Sanskritam or Tamil would know this word. It is called Kavalam or Kavala. Kavala means 1 handful of food. So, a sannyasi, the Shastras say, can have only 8 kavalas. And the sannyasi cannot eat 8 times in a day one kavala. It usually is like 1 time and that's it. After that he is done. But for a Vanaprasthi, because he is still in the stage, it says 16 kavalas. For a Grihastha, it says only 32 kavalas are allowed. Now, I am not talking about huge Tirupati Laddu size kavalams. That's not called as that. Now, we may not be even able to eat that much in today's term, because in those days people worked hard physical labor, so that was the norm. Today, if you eat 32 kavalam that is prescribed for a Grihastha, you will end up with diabetes for sugar, or maybe you will end up with blood pressure or some heart disease or something like that. So you have to also understand. Now again, what you put in the 32 columns become a different topic altogether. We are not going there. But when it comes to a brahmachari, there is no such restriction. So again, we have to understand the focus here is to map the Purusharthas with the stage of life, and all of us here are Grihasthas, and and we are Grihastha means what? Griha Asta. So you are in the house. That's all we are. Because the guy, today's day and age, what they do? Before they get a job confirmation, first job payment is coming, he already got 2 EMI. One for the car, one for the house. Right? So we are Grihastha in that sense. But are we Grihastha Ashrama followers? That is the question. So, we all need to do 2 things. Before we start regulating the Kama or overcoming the Indriyas problem, mind and all those things. We need to discipline ourselves to focus on Dharma, and we need to have a good understanding of Artha. Because, and also our understanding should be that Artha is not for sensory pleasure satisfaction. That Artha is for upholding Dharma. Because in that Dharma itself, you will find Artha and Kama. So, with that, let me pause here. We can open up for discussion. This is a very heavy topic, interesting topic, very relevant topic. So, what do we do? Where do we start? Whether we follow it or not today, we are all part of this ashrama. And unfortunately, we have reduced this ashrama down to only kama. And we have to change that status quo by replacing that kama centric focus and make it dharma centric focus. Instead of being kama bada, we have to be dharma bada. Instead of being bound by kama, we have to be bound by dharma. And that is possible only when we do satsanga. Now, satsanga doesn't mean you coming here every day and you listening to me and listening to people like Bharata or Kicha or some Atma Ji like that. That is inclusive, but it also includes a sadhana that you are taking and doing daily. You are after bath 5 minutes you are doing some sloka, or you every day you cook the food and offer it to Bhagavan as a prasada, and you eat only that prasada. Every day you take a little time to study some scriptures, or maybe once in a week you read scriptures. Take a little time with your family, like half an hour. You discuss all things in the world rest of the time in the week, but half an hour sit and talk about Dharma Chintana, Atma Vichara. Those sort of ideas are part of your life. Now, when we bring these kind of ideas, we bring back again Dharma as the focus in our life. And that Dharma will help us to understand and regulate how to take care of Artha and Kama. So, we re-establish that foundation in ourselves. Now, we are equipped enough to transfer it to our children and the next generation. Now, if we don't have children, or if our children are big and we are beyond our point of impact, don't worry. You can still go and impact neighborhood children, other people in your life. Wherever you go, whatever you do in your life, you will be meeting people. Even if you have nobody, you are still following Dharma. And by definition, you become an example to others. So, others will watch what you are doing, not what you are saying. Okay. With those words, let's think about Bhagavan Sri Ram and Krishna to give us the energy and courage to focus on them, and always think about Dharma. Why did all these avatars come? They came with the sole purpose of upholding Dharma. What does Bhagavad Gita sloka also say? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Bhagavan is saying that he is going to come. Why? Upholding good people and taking care of the bad people. Dushta nigraha, shishta paripalana is only one small aspect. But what is the main purpose of Bhagavan coming? Upholding Dharma. Because whenever Dharma is getting the hit, Bhagavan will send someone to protect, uplift. So, let us take a resolve, let us make a resolve to focus our time and energies in understanding, upholding, seeking, learning about Dharma and spreading the ideas of Dharma everywhere. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Krishna, Har Har